Well, hello, I'm Matt Williamson, at Williamson NFL. Spread the word, hit the like button, do all that good stuff. We've been getting a lot of attention from you guys. I love it. And this has been a really fun podcast to do. And there's not a ton going on right now in Steeler world. We'll start with the signing of the day, yet another defensive lineman, Ezi Adomino. I'm sure I did not say that correctly. He has 9 career games in 3 years. I don't know much about him. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I wanted to bring it up because that's the third bottom of the roster defensive lineman they've signed basically in the last 24 to 48 hours. And I just wanted to address that situation with you. This one in particular screams he is far from a guarantee of making the roster. The dude they signed from the Patriots to me probably is in the mix, but he's not a great run defender. He doesn't have a lot of sack production or pass rush production. He's not really a nose, although he can kind of do that. He's certainly not Cam Hayward. We know exactly who Loudermilk is. And you're probably like, well, why are we even talking about these guys? Well, because it's the news, basically. But here's my thoughts is none of this changes what I think their intention is to draft a defensive lineman very high, and maybe 2 of them. This shouldn't change that one bit. You bring all these guys to camp. None of the 3 are guaranteed roster spots. You don't have guaranteed money involved. You certainly don't have draft picks. There's no investment whatsoever. You have cap space. If there's injuries, they're on board. If somebody steps up, they get themselves a spot. All those things. And, oh, by the way, you play them a ton in the preseason. If the Bears or 49ers or Lions or whoever have an injury, maybe you trade one of them for a 6th or 7th round pick based off preseason tape. Their insurance, their depth. I mean, again, I would bet one of the 3 are Steelers when the roster comes out. Now, maybe they end up on the practice squad after a good camp. And week 12, you have D-line injuries, and you're like, oh, we'll call Loudermilk up. We know exactly who he is. We trust him. He's not the best player in the world, but good thing he's floating around. D-linemen don't grow on trees. Grab some of these dudes that have a lot to play for. Their careers are far from set in stone, to say the least. So I think that's what's going on this last 24 hours with this bevy of sort of no-name D-line picks. And frankly, if we were doing a Rams podcast and they signed Loudermilk, we probably wouldn't know much about him either. You know what I mean? Like, they're all kind of the same. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. A few other things I wanted to talk about too, just kind of a tidbit day. I'm sure a lot of you are anxiously awaiting the visits, which, as you should. I mean, those 30 visits that they get are often very telling. Doesn't mean they're going to draft them, but they're going to figure out conversations. Well, you're going to have to hold your breath on that, and it sure sounds like you're going to hold your breath on Aaron Rodgers as well. First, we'll talk about Rodgers. He's going to take his time. I mean, frankly, what I believe at this point is he's uncertain 100% if he wants to put in everything it takes to be an NFL player, and he has every right to do that. So could they give him an ultimatum on a date? Maybe. I do believe that whatever's going on between him and the Vikings is now over. I don't know if they had a lot of interest in him to begin with. I think they're highly, highly invested and excited about J.J. McCarthy, who's now healthy. And Rodgers would have to be maybe a backup, a Flacco-like for them. I don't know. That never added up to me. Maybe that's just stuff that he's drummed up out of his camp to put more pressure on the Steelers Giants. I don't know. But I don't think anything's happening soon. We'll say that. My buddy Dale Lawley threw this out today on the drive. I guess Pat McAfee will be in town in 2 weeks and hosting a live show. The last time he did that, they sold out PPG Arena. How funny would it be, or how cool would it be, or how great of a promotion would it be if Rodgers comes walking out in a Steeler uniform on the McAfee show and the place goes crazy? Who knows? But I would think these answers come before the draft, I would assume, but I don't have any insight on it. It's just the elephant in the room, and I just didn't want to ignore it anymore. But I do think it's going to be Giants, Steelers, or retirement for Aaron Rodgers. Back to the visits, the 30 visits. Also, don't hold your breath for any news on that right now. I was at the facility yesterday. I've been talking to Dale as I do every day. He's been down there every day, and it's basically a ghost town. Well, why is that? Why is nothing happening at the Steeler facility? It's a crucial time of year. They're all on the road to pro days. I mean, pro days are now the thing that the teams are all doing. So if you're in UCLA or Bama or Georgia or Columbus or whatever, you're not going to host, players. And Tomlin, as much as any head coach in the league, gets very involved in pro days and the scouting process. Say what you want about him as a coach. He is very hands-on in this regard. There are some coaches that don't get involved at all or go to any pro days. He's there all the time. Took Milroe and some other Bama guys out to dinner last night. So you want the head coach to be around if you're bringing guys in on their visits. So that's not going to happen for these next couple of days either. So I'm just trying to pull back the curtain, tell you how things are going in all the buildings, but I can give you firsthand information on the Steelers. So basically that's what's shaking, folks. Last thing I wanted to bring up is here we are going on late March, and there are mock drafts galore and people love them. And frankly, they're great clickbait. And I did a mock draft and I put it on Twitter today and it got a bazillion views, Okay. But I don't overreact to, this draft expert had the Steelers take this dude or whatever. But two of the guys I do trust probably the most in terms of their ties to the league and their information from the league are Mel Kiper, who's been doing this my entire lifetime and is a pioneer, and Daniel Jeremiah, who was a scout, NFL.com connections, really good at his job. Coincidentally, he actually, when I got fired with the Browns, he came in the next day. Maybe he had my office. I don't know. But both are very good at their jobs. Both are very connected. So both those guys, those gentlemen, when they do mocks, they mock with their ears. What's that mean? Well, DJ says this all the time. He ranks players. He does his top 50 with his eyes, what he sees, what he thinks. But when he does a mock draft, he does it with his ears, what he's been told, where guys are going to go. I want to get as many guys in the first round that I actually think will end there, whether he would do it or not. Mel is definitely the same way, gets tons of information and gets the guys in the first round that he thinks will inevitably get there, often from his sources. That's the way I understand that they do business, and I have great respect for both of them. But where I'm going with this, Jaxson Dart. So DJ, in his latest mock, both of them came out this week, had Jaxson Dart going 21st to the Steelers. Mel Kiper didn't even have Dart getting that far. He went 9th to the Saints as the third quarterback off the board for both guys. Personally, we can debate back and forth. Is Jaxson Dart a good fit for the Steelers? Is this the time to do it? I lean towards no. I'm going to do more homework on him, but I do not see great traits. I see him as a guy that would be probably your number 3 all year behind Rudolph and Rodgers, Wilson, whoever, some kind of veteran, and needs a ton of time. I just don't see immense upside there that sit him for a year like Mahomes and then he comes in and bursts on the scene. He's okay. I just don't think he's worth that pick at 21, I'm talking, let alone for the Saints at 9, but that's not what we're talking about here. I would love to see him fall before the Steelers pick, and the fact that they don't have a second-round pick as it stands right now, if you go Dart and then you have to wait all the way to the 3rd before you can start addressing D-line or running back or whatever else, I just don't think that's the move this year. I would much rather use a 5th-round pick on a quarterback or even skip it altogether and go with the old guy in Rudolph and address it next year in the draft. But I just wanted to throw it out there that that's the latest buzz. And because it came from those two, I am starting to believe it. And history will always show that even if Jaxson Dart is the 45th best player on the consensus boards, first off, it only takes one team, that he could absolutely end up in the 1st round. And okay, I would assume the Steelers, like they did with Tyler Shuck, will have him in on a visit. And they've clearly done their homework on him. Frankly, I just don't see it. And as I record this on March 19th, I wouldn't be super excited about it for this year because I don't love the player. I don't love how the draft would go, subsequently from that point on. But I did want to address that is some of the buzz in the draft community right now. All right, everyone, take care. Over and out.